Hi, everybody. This is Jahan. Over to Akash.
Perfect. Just give me one. Is my okay? Yeah, my voice is there. Okay. Great. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're really excited about today's session. Melissa is going to talk about how we can sort of incorporate passion and purpose into our jobs and startups, whether we are entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs. It's also going to be an interactive session. So if you have any questions or Facebook, or you can send them to us on Facebook or via Zoom. Just a little bit about Melissa. Melissa is the chief penguin at IBM Hyperprotect Accelerator, which she'll also tell us a little bit about. She's also the founder and CEO of Mentor Nations, a youth-led digital skills movement in Africa that has taught tens of thousands of youth to code across 12 countries. She holds 2 master's degrees and is working towards her PhD. Her research focuses on the digital inclusion of underrepresented communities. She also serves on a roundtable within the UN and has been a speaker in more than 100 topics all across the world, including in Pakistan, and we're really lucky to have her join us for 0 to 1 Disrupt as well. And now we have this session from her, so we're really excited. Over to you, Melissa.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having me. For those of you who are following along in Pakistan, or for those of you who are from Pakistan, you know that Pakistan holds a special place in my heart. Last year, I had the wonderful opportunity of visiting Pakistan 3 times, and I even got to go to a wedding, and I got to wear the most lovely Desi dress. And I still have it, and I'm looking forward once all of this social distancing, travel, COVID-19 craziness is over, because frankly, I have more business to do in Pakistan, and I have more biryani to eat. Now, I usually start off my talks, especially when I'm working with people in Pakistan, and I try to create a biryani war. But I think I will skip the biryani war today, because for me, it is 5 o'clock in the morning, and the last thing I'm thinking about is biryani. All right, so let's get started. Please jump in with any questions that you have, whether that's through Zoom, Facebook, whatever. So my name is Melissa Sassy, and as Akash mentioned, I work at IBM. I run an accelerator program at IBM. I focus on early stage startups, and I help those early stage
Melissa, I have a question. Why is it that
Sorry, that's okay. It just came in. I messed up.
Okay. All right, cool. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I was just kicking someone out and it allowed them inside by accident. So that's fine. We got it under control.
Somebody had a question. All right, so I'm gonna guess what that question is. Why do I like Pakistan so much? Because Pakistanis are so hospitable, and for me, I find that Pakistan feels like a second home to me. Maybe that's not what he was gonna ask, but that's okay. We'll pretend like that's what he was gonna ask. So I've got 3 startups in my program with Pakistani roots. One is registered in the US, one is registered in the UAE, and one is registered in the US. And I think the other one is working on getting registered in Canada as well. So I've had a lot of success working with Jihan and others to recruit Pakistani entrepreneurs into my program. So I don't just talk about how great it is to do business in Pakistan. I actually do business in Pakistan, and look forward to continuing to come back again. I'll talk a little bit about my program in a second, but I really want to make the focus of this conversation about how do you create your own purpose-driven career, whether you're an entrepreneur creating your own business, or whether you're an entrepreneur, and that's an innovator working inside of someone else's company. I will tell you that I'm both an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. So when I talk about entrepreneurship, I'm a founder myself. I've got a lot of things that I do, and I believe very strongly in following your passions and incorporating those things into your job. I find that I'm much happier. I find that I wake up in the morning and I get fired up to go to work. Today I woke up at 3 a.m. and I don't advise that anyone get into the habit of waking up at 3 and 4 a.m. I do. That's just when I get my work done in the morning. It's a bit crazy, but that's how I roll. And I think part of it is when you work on something that is really exciting for you and you're really passionate about it, it makes you want to wake up. It makes you want to show up. It makes you want to keep going. And I think that's especially the case when your purpose and your passion also make the world a better place. The other thing that I focus on at IBM is I run a student community. So for those of you would-be entrepreneurs who are still students, I also run a student community where we focus on tech skill building, professional development, and entrepreneurship skills. So let's jump in. All right, so again, we're going to talk about creating your own purpose-driven career. You know, when I was talking to Jihan, I gave her and the team this 5-point formula, and then I started thinking about it a little bit after I sent that. I'm like, you know what? It's really an 8-step formula. So I changed that up a little bit, and I instead of having 5, I included 8. So be your own boss and figure out, you know, how do you want to get your message across? And if you want to change things, don't be afraid, change them. So a purpose-driven career is really about, it's not about what you're doing, but how you're doing, or how you're being. And I think what you'll notice here is I've included a reference to a book. I would recommend that you check it out. Don't just hear about my 8-point formula, but you know, hear from somebody else, you know, hear from others about how they have incorporated purpose and passion into their career. It took me a long time. You know, when I first started out my career, I was a raw material analyst. So I analyzed sulfur and hydrochloric acid and all kinds of chemicals. It was absolutely, you know, far from what I wanted to do, but it was a job and it enabled me to go out and do the things that I needed to do financially. But I wasn't so fired up in the morning. I went in, I did my job, I was good at my job, you know, I got my salary, but I wasn't fired up to like do more and be part of, you know, that being my career. And it took me a long time before I, number one, figured out what the heck my passion was. So for those of you who don't know what your passion is, that's okay. I've got some pointers to help you figure out what your passion is. And for those of you who know what your passion is, I think that this will hopefully help you figure out how to inject it into your career or into your startup. All right, cool. So now we're gonna jump in to those 8 steps. I always put this picture in my slide decks, even when I'm presenting it to IBM executives. So I recently put together a presentation and I put this at the end for my next steps. And it went up to a very senior person. So don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to have fun. I know that, you know, some of us divide our, you know, work and our personal lives, and different, you know, people have different views on how well those should be integrated or how separate those should be. For anyone who knows me, what they know is when you meet me at work, when you meet me outside of work, when you see me on social media, I'm the same person. Not everybody knows how to do that, and not everybody feels comfortable with that. The closer you get to being your authentic self at home, at work, and in social media, to whatever extent you feel comfortable, helps define you so that people aren't confused about, well, who the heck is this person? What are they all about? It takes a long time to get there. Not all of us have been there. So first thing that we've got to think about is what I call being an and not an or. And what I mean by that is you don't have to choose between your different selves. And what I mean by that is I am an entrepreneur, so I innovate inside of IBM. I have my own startup program, my own startup program in IBM. And what I mean by that is I'm a scrappy startup inside of a big company. I also, you know, so I work with early stage entrepreneurs. I work with student developers. I work with tribal communities, so indigenous communities. I create a bit of my own job. I also am a founder. You know, I've got my own nonprofit. I'm an academic. I'm a writer. I do I'm a speaker. I do a lot of different things, and I don't believe in having to choose between being a founder and an entrepreneur, or an academic and a practitioner. You know, I feel like you can do all of those things at the same time. I think there used to be a time where we thought, oh, I need to either be a founder or this. And in reality, there's a lot of things that we can be. You know, naturally, you know, once your startup builds and scales and grows and is giant, you know, you have to choose, I think, between what those ands are and what those ands are not. So next thing is finding your passion. You know, figuring out, do you have a purpose? You know, I'd love to see either in the Zoom comments or on Facebook, if you found your passion, and if you have, what is that? I'll tell you about mine, but I'd be very interested in knowing, what the heck is your passion? What do you care about? What do you wake up in the morning to do? If you know, some of us are passionate about education or female empowerment. Others might have a hobby. Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's tutoring. Maybe it's mentoring. It could be many, many different things. All right, let's move on to the next slide. All right, cool. So again, I'm going to highlight that we are ands and not ors, and you should be an and. Hey, Jihan, do you see that photo of us together in Pakistan?
Yeah, I see that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I always try to include this picture because your office is so beautiful, and I really like this picture of us. I'm also wearing a jacket that I got in Pakistan, which I have like maybe 5 or 10 different jackets that I bought in Pakistan. So when I speak, I'm often wearing my Pakistani threads. And then I think you'll notice that I've included a picture of me up on the stage when I was at 021 Disrupt. And I must say that I made so many connections that day. You know, I can't wait till all of the social distancing is over and we can all get back out together. For any of you who are thinking about, how do you find your passion? How do you meet people like you? For me, I met so many people at 021 Disrupt, and we're still doing business together today, which I enjoy. And I've actually made so many friends in Pakistan that I feel like it's a second home to me. So what are my ands? So I'm a developer advocate. Funny enough, I'm a developer advocate, yet I'm not a developer. I've written one line of code in my life, and that's hello world. So there are many things that you can be, and you don't necessarily need to follow the conventions of what people, may tell you is, what it means to be this or what it means to be that. Create your own road. I'm passionate about digital inclusion, tech for good. I do a lot of work in digital transformation, specifically with the startup community. As Akash mentioned, I'm also a founder where I have my own nonprofit, and we've taught tens of thousands of kids to code in 12 countries. I'm on the board of a Pakistani startup, or a Pakistani nonprofit called Techmeal, and we empower outer school youth through technology. We have 25, 30 different schools in rural areas where we teach using community elders and technology, and they learn how to read, how to write, how to do math, instead of an out-of-school youth or a day laborer or a child bride, potentially being in school for 6 years, and it taking them 6 years to learn some of these concepts. We work within the confines of the challenges in Pakistan or the opportunities in Pakistan, and make sure that they come out of 1 year of learning, knowing how to read and write and do math. I'm an entrepreneur, so I have my own startups as well. So I think that helps me when I run my startup program, because I can think like a founder. I can think about, what are the things that I would want? What are the things that I need? These all, kind of surround my passions, which are empowering underserved communities or underrepresented communities or people without access to technology. I'm passionate about female entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about digital inclusion. I love to make an impact and make the world a better place. I'm a lifelong learner, so I'll be finished with my PhD this year, and I'll be Dr. Sassy, which who doesn't want to be called Dr. Sassy? I love to travel the world, so I've been to about 55 countries. Maybe the number's 54 right now, which obviously my travels have been put on hold. And so a lot of things have changed, due to COVID-19. I'm dealing with it myself. As I mentioned, I'm a speaker and author, and I like to volunteer. And for me, I found my passions through volunteerism. So for those of you who don't volunteer or are trying to figure out how do you transition your career, or how do you think about what your passions and purpose, what those might be, volunteering is a great place to discover those. If you're not sure what your passion is, this is this is a tool I use to find my passions. So I'm passionate about technology entrepreneurship, quality education. Yes, I'm passionate about technology entrepreneurship, but according to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, I'm passionate about quality education, gender equality, decent work, and economic growth. Hey, Jihan, do you know what your passions are?
Absolutely.
Tell me, what are your passions? Huh?
I'm passionate about the Nest, about the startup ecosystem, about the impact that we can have just by doing very small things. So I'm passionate about a lot of stuff.
Perfect. Akash, do you know what your passion is?
So I still feel like I'm still discovering a lot of new things about myself, but I'm passionate about technology, about horror movies, about video games, about meeting people. I'm passionate about connecting people. So lots of things, but I still feel like I'm learning more about myself, every so often.
I'm still learning about myself as well, but I really felt like, believe it or not, I know most people don't believe this, but I'm 44, and I didn't find myself, I think, or I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin until I was 40. And at that time, I felt like I knew myself, and I felt like I discovered what those passions are. And for me, it came from something deeply personal. My kids did not have access to technology in their classroom. And for me, I realized that their lack of access to technology was something that I could solve personally. And I went out to really empower my daughter's school with access to computers. And I started this program when I was working at Microsoft in another job. And I had so much fun, researching and learning about, what does it mean to have access to technology, and how could that empower, young people when it comes to education. And I realized I was so interested in it, and I realized it was this big world, wicked problem that would take years to solve. It felt like something that I could invest my time in, something that I could make a difference in. And so I started working in that space. And then I started realizing the important role that technology plays to drive economic development, whether that's through entrepreneurship or just having the skills to work in a company. And then I also realized that, it was about empowering young people who don't have access to, tools and technology. And so what does it mean for them to achieve from an educational perspective? And then I started realizing that technology is really part of everything we do. And without access to the internet, without access to devices, and without meaningful skills to turn people from consumers into technology into creators, makers, and doers empowered by technology, I realized that, we would continue to have this world of haves and have-nots. And I thought, if I could make a difference by teaching, getting one classroom, devices, and one classroom the skills to make meaningful use of the internet, then I've achieved this goal. And once I did the one, it became 40, and then it became tens of thousands of kids, and then it became this whole career for me. And it all stemmed from my daughter not having access to a computer in her classroom. So many of us have our origin stories. I have my own origin story that, helps to define why I do what I do. Jihan, do you have an origin story that kind of got you to, you know, do what you do?
Do I have a what story?
An origin story.
No, I don't think so. I think it just sort of crept up on me and surprised me. And as I said in the chat, some people are sending comments on chat
Oh, I'm not
as well.
seeing the chat. Hold on,
Yeah.
let me look at, let me open up the chat.
Yeah, it might be nice for you to comment on some of those. I said on chat, you know, continuously
Is it
discovering
the chat?
yourself.
Sorry, Jihan, is it the chat in Facebook or it's the chat on Zoom?
No, no, chat in Zoom. Can you see it? I think you should be able to see it right
Okay,
at the
hold
bottom.
on. Is it in the Q and hold on? Hold on 1 second. Let me find it.
It's right next to the share screen button.
Oh, you know what? I might not be seeing it now.
Ah,
Hold on. I'm gonna give me 1 second because I want to be able to see it.
We can share some of the comments with you otherwise.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, for some reason, I can only see Q&A. I don't see chat.
Let me put it in Q&A, some of the relevant ones.
Okay, cool. That would be awesome. For some reason, I can see Q&A, but I can't see anything else.
Vamik says you can't see it if your presentation is on. So it's okay, we'll put it in the Q&A.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to put this back on sharing mode. But yeah, feel free to jump in if there are comments or questions that I can answer. All right, cool. Are you seeing 2 screens now or just 1 screen?
2 screens.
Okay, cool. Let me fix that. All right, perfect. All right, we back in business again?
Yep.
All right, cool. So sorry, Jihan, what were some of the comments that you that were coming in? And I'm happy to chat through some of those.
Okay, so there's a young woman, I assume her name is Ume Hani. She says, I'm passionate about socializing and listening to people. I really want to be a passionate designer, but somehow I just feel scared of not being good enough. It has a lot to do with me not having a vision, and I'm still trying to pan that out.
So I have a friend. I definitely want to talk about this one because I have a friend of mine who her name is Donna Sucker. And Donna works at Microsoft, and she's always been passionate about fashion design. As a little girl, she grew up in a underprivileged community in Detroit, Michigan, and she would go to the library and she would make copies and draw like pictures of dresses and outfits from magazines, and she had a sketchbook, and that's what she did. And she knew that she wanted to go beyond her life circumstances and decided that she was going to study to be an engineer and not necessarily follow her passion for fashion design. But that passion for fashion design stuck with her. She became an engineer and she kept sketching, and she decided, why do I have to choose between being an engineer and a fashion designer? And so she decided at night to go to fashion school, and she did. And she realized when she was in fashion school that she wasn't good at sewing. So how do you be a fashion designer if you can't sew and you're terrible at sewing? And so she realized that she had creative vision, but she didn't know how to sew. And what she did is she, as part of her job at Microsoft, she spent time in Indonesia. She spent time in Kenya and Nigeria. And as she was going to the markets and as she was shopping in these different stores, she realized that there were all these amazing seamstresses or individuals who were much better at sewing than she was. And she saw all these amazing fabrics. And so she had the creative vision, but she didn't have this other piece. And so she decided that she would go on a mission to find individuals who knew how to sew better than her. And so she found an individual or maybe a few individuals throughout her travels. And this doesn't necessarily need to be, something that you find through travel. It could be in your home community. It could be in your neighborhood. It could be with your friends. It could be with your family. And what she did is she found the place where she was good, the place where she wasn't so good, and she combined their skills together. And now she has her own fashion line. She just became profitable last year. She's still working at Microsoft. Her name is Donna Sakar. You can follow her on Twitter. It's DONASARKAR, Donna Sakar. And you can find her on Instagram under Prima Donna, PRIMADONA. And she makes dresses and jackets for women with big pockets. And actually, this is one of her designs. Hold on. So the dress that I wore at 021 Disrupt, this jacket, this was made by Donna.
Oh,
Donna
so cool.
also, yeah, I love this dress. Donna also was very worried that she would never be anything she would not be a great engineer. Donna has dyslexia, and she would often see, the numbers and words and things all jumbled up. And she recently came out to tell the world that it doesn't matter what your abilities are, you can overcome, those abilities or those disabilities and be anything you want to be. You have to figure out, how do you work within your weaknesses? How do you work within your strengths? How do you find others who have the strengths that you don't have and come together as a squad? And I think this is the important thing about having a team. Whether you want to be a fashion designer, whether you want to be a technology entrepreneur, figure out, what are you good at? What are other people good at? And how do you combine those things together? So if you feel like you lack vision or creativity, who do you know who has creativity? What can you do to model after some of those people who are creative? And if it's that you know how to sew, but you lack the other piece, who has those creative skills? Could it be that you two come together? So just remember that there's no I in team. For me, my passion is digital inclusion. I have a lot of other passions, but in my mind, we measure IQ, we measure EQ. So why are we not measuring digital literacy or digital intelligence? I was part of creating a coalition called the Coalition for Digital Intelligence with the OECD, the World Economic Forum, the IEEE, and the DQ Institute. That's all about empowering the world through access to digital skills, but having a meaningful definition of what that means versus a lot of people coming up and, talking about what it means to be digitally literate, but only focusing on one aspect of digital literacy, such as learning to code. Digital literacy is not just being an engineer, it's having media literacy, it's knowing how to manage your personal brand online. It's a whole lot of other things that, that is not just about AI and data. Jihan, are there other questions in the Q&A that we should address?
Yeah, there's one by Harun, and he's saying, how do we bring passion inside us if we see a lot of competition around us?
You're always going to have competition, always. I have a lot of competition myself. And sometimes it's good competition and sometimes it's not so good, I think that you have to do your best and you have to be your true self. You have to be your authentic self. And I think that you're always going to have, people competing with you, and sometimes it's going to be nasty. And sometimes it's going to be great. I personally like competition, but I like friendly competition. I don't like, when people are competing with me out of jealousy or out of, intimidation. It happens. It's happened to me, and it doesn't feel nice. But I think you wake up in the morning, you do your best, you do your thing, and that's what matters. So if you think about the second step, we talked about, find your passion. Next thing you need to do is give yourself space and time, take time to learn, get your squad together, figure out who else has these same passions. Come, be together with what I call kindred spirits, people who have the same mission, have the same goals, are passionate about the same things, or people who are passionate about maybe something else, but have incorporated passion and purpose into their lives. be willing to invest. It took me years to incorporate passion and purpose into my career, years. I spent 10 years of my career without any passion or purpose, you know. Thankfully, I found a way to do it, and this is how I did it, is what I'm sharing with you today. So, you know, don't forget to be mindful and prioritize and organize yourself. You know, think about what do you want to achieve? Give yourself the space and time that you need to achieve what you want to achieve, but do it in a mindful way. You know, again, you know, think about what are the priorities to get you from here to there, and how do you organize yourself? Think about it as a project plan like anything else. And then you need to create your plan to fill in the gaps. So, you know, like you would any project plan. You know, what is it that you're missing that's allowing you to go from here to here? If it's experience, volunteer with a startup. If it's experience, go and volunteer with a nonprofit. You know, go take courses. You know, own your path, but be realistic about your timeline and your goals. You know, set milestones for yourself. And remember that you don't need to take this big jump and this big jump. You know, I started my PhD in 2013. It's 2020, and I'm still working on the thing. You know, it takes time to achieve your goals, and things just don't happen overnight. For some of us, they wake up in the morning and all of a sudden they've achieved their goals. You know, again, it took me 10 years to incorporate passion and purpose into my career. And if I had taken some of these steps, like volunteering with a startup, taking more courses, finding my squad, networking more, you know, I would have been further along. All right, Akash, any other questions coming in that I should jump in and answer now?
There's one from Vamik who's asking, are there any good tools to help with organization skills?
You know, I am not as organized as I'd like to be. I know some people have, you know, they have this inbox zero thing where every day they have 0 emails in their inbox. I get about 1,000 emails a day. So even if I tried, it wouldn't happen. So I gave that up long ago, maybe 2 years ago. I don't know if that's the most organized. It might make somebody freak out. You know, I know a lot of people who use, you know, OneNote. One of the things that I do, and this is not really about organizing, I have this app on my phone that I use that I like, and it's kind of more about being motivated. I'm looking at it now so I can make sure to give you the right name. It's called 3 Good Things. I don't know if everyone has access to it everywhere, but it's not necessarily about organizing yourself, but it's about taking down the 3 good things that happened that day that helped me incorporate purpose and passion into my career, and things that I'm proud about. And I take those down every day. If I don't have 3 things, I don't take it down. If I don't have any good things that day, I don't take anything down. But I kind of do that. When I was kind of working toward incorporating purpose and passion in my career, I used Excel to create a project plan of the different things I wanted to do, the different people I wanted to talk to, who I spoke to. I'm not saying that that's the best tool, but you know, I have other people who journal every day, and they come up with you know, task lists from that, and to-dos from that. I just haven't been the best at putting, you know, a to-do list together in that format. So where do I play? I wrote a blog that kind of highlights all the stuff I'm talking about today. So for those of you who can see the screen, it's at IBM/purpose, IBM/biz/purpose. Take a picture of the screen if you want to come and check out, or this slide, if you want to come and check out some of the things that I work on, whether that's female empowerment in Afghanistan, out of school youth in Pakistan with Takmil, digital skills. I do a talk on imposter syndrome, which I gave in Karachi. So lots of fun things, but again, be an and, not an or. And think about how do you take on, how do you go beyond, the job, I know that's hard if we've got families and kids and school and work and all of these things, but, you know, go above and beyond. Take on stretch assignments. I talked about volunteering with a startup and giving forward in nonprofits. You know, if you're already a founder, think about, you know, what are some things that you can do to give forward? You know, talk to your employees, talk to your volunteers, and find out what are they passionate about. You know, I'm a big fan of my manager gives me the freedom that I need to have 80% of my job to be my job, and 20% of it is whatever I want. For those of you who are a founder or a manager, give your employees that freedom. You know, give them 20% of their time to work on their passion projects. They're going to be more engaged. They're going to appreciate you more. They're going to work harder because they're working on things that really matter to them, above and beyond just the everyday. Again, gather your squad. Seek bite-sized insights. Don't just drive your mentors or your sponsors crazy. You know, ask for mini insights. You know, give back with them. You know, reciprocate those favors. If you've asked them for advice, how can you help them? And make sure to always offer up help. And most importantly, be a friend. You know, I think what most people find when they meet me is, hopefully, maybe Jihan can confirm, but hopefully they feel like, you know, they can come to me for advice. They can come to me for questions. They can, you know, I hope that, you know, when people meet me, they feel like I'm both a business colleague, a trusted advisor, but also a friend, someone that they can come and talk to about something crucial or something critical in their career. Jian, I'm going to put you on the spot again. Do you feel like I'm a friend as well? If she doesn't come back, then we know we're in trouble. Or maybe she stepped away. I hope it's because she stepped away and not because.
Oh no, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh yeah, there she is.
I wouldn't step away.
Melissa was asking if you would consider her as a friend.
I'm a friend as well.
Yes, I think we've become friends.
She doesn't come back, then we know we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to think about your business colleagues, you know, as, you know, and your mentors and your mentees, as, you know, being a friend as well. All right, cool. I put a lot of Pakistan love into this presentation. So that's actually a picture of me in Lahore with one of my mentees who I consider a friend as well. All right, I'm going to take a pause for a second and ask: Are there any questions that we wanna pop in and answer?
Yeah, quite a few. So Mazhar's asking, how can you gather the courage and get your inner voice strong enough to follow your passion and leave what you're doing as a living or your profession, understanding all the risks before it's too late and you miss the bus and cannot fit in, and in the end up being nowhere? That's the dilemma that a majority of people are, who can't take this decision because of so many factors binding them to not go for what they really want to go.
I think you have to just do it. And I know that that's scary and that's hard, but the only thing that's stopping you is you. Nothing else. You are stopping yourself. But, you know, you can start small. It doesn't mean like all of a sudden I'm going to go quit my job or I'm going to quit my startup and work on something else to make the world a better place. Remember that you can do well while doing good. You can make money and have a job and make the world a better place at the same time. You don't have to choose between those two things. Now, you know, if your passion is, you know, playing with kittens, you know, you might, you know, there, you know, might be limited opportunities for you, you know, to achieve your dreams. But I know people who've started up cat cafes, so anything is possible. But I think it's important for you to start small and go in step by step. For me, I started transitioning my career by mentoring young women in Egypt. And I did that for a period of time. And then I went in to do another volunteer project. And then I did another volunteer project, and I did it in my spare time. And I did that for a few years until I felt comfortable enough to be a founder, until I felt comfortable enough to know what my passion and purpose is, until I felt comfortable to go in and transition my career, because I used the experience from my volunteer endeavors to transition my career. And that happened over years. It wasn't just like, okay, great, I like digital inclusion, now I'm going to do that. It didn't work like that. It was like, now I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to do that. So you have to figure out, if your big goal is way over here and you're over here, what are those small steps that will help you to get from here to here? And for me, it was volunteerism and my personal, creating my personal brand, writing about what I was passionate about, blogging about it, volunteering for talks, mentoring young people, people who had, less experience than me. So I think when you're mentoring someone, especially someone who's much younger than you, it's really hard to fail, because you might have a lot more knowledge than them. But also remember that someone much younger than you, much older than you learn from everyone. I actually have mentors who reverse mentor me. So I have a few mentors. One is 15 years old. She mentors me. And why does she mentor me? She helps me think about the voice of youth. And that's something that I can't think about, because I'm not young anymore. I like to think I'm young. I think I act young. I don't know. But it's really important to control your own narrative. Think about what is your, what do you want? How do you want people to see you? You're the one stopping yourself from being that person. But be present. Whatever your passion is, start writing about it, and be present online and offline. But be inclusive. All right, cool. So the last step in the process, as I mentioned, is just do it. Do that thing, whatever that thing is. So I'm going to tell you a story about, oh, and by the way, that's Donna. So this is Donna, the woman I spoke about earlier. She's the fashion designer. That's one of her dresses. And then she's wearing it up on the stage. We were at a UN event in where were we at? We were in Budapest, I think. Is that where we were? Yeah, we were in Budapest. That was actually my birthday. This is a good example right here of me doing the thing. For those of you who might recognize that face, that's Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. I was working on a project trying to bring computers to my daughter's school and other schools, and I came up with this idea at Microsoft to revolutionize device giving. And I created a team of about 50, 60 people from all over the world. And I proposed a new program at Microsoft, and it ended up getting rolled out worldwide in every single country that Microsoft operates in. And how did I make Satya Nadella aware of my project? He was walking in front of me, and I stepped in front of him. I did. He was walking this way. I stepped in front of him, and I said, Satya, can I tell you about my project? And he had cameras on him, cameras on me. So he couldn't say no, because then he'd be a jerk, right? So he said, sure. And I had my 30-second elevator pitch down. So if you don't have your 30-second elevator speech down, something to practice. I had my 30 seconds down. And he was like, when I told him the problem statement about us having tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of devices that were not given out to nonprofits when retail locations and marketing programs were finished with them, that they went into the recycle bin. He was interested and said, what do you mean? I said, yes. I said, and we can actually take those devices and we can put them into the hands of nonprofits and truly live our mission of empowering every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. If people don't have access to technology and we're putting many in the recycle bin, hundreds of thousands of them, are we living our mission? And he looked over at someone else, like, take a note of this. I won first place in a worldwide hackathon at Microsoft for employees out of 4,000 teams in the Inspired Me category. And I did that because I developed purpose and passion, and I incorporated it into my career. And I wasn't afraid to step into one of the most powerful men on the planet, Satya Nadella, who didn't fire me. He didn't kick me in the leg. He rolled out my program, and it's still alive today. Now he has no idea who I am. If I went up to him again, he probably has no idea who I am. That's okay. I achieved my goal of empowering thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world through access to technology. All right. So before I tell you about my program, I want to answer some more questions, but I want to share one thing, and that's former President Bill Clinton. I met him a few months ago before COVID-19 in Puerto Rico, and I was selected to meet him because I was speaking at an event on climate change and the importance of digital skills and the role that that plays when it comes to preparing for and or responding to disaster scenarios. And they picked me and they put me first in line. And we were waiting for President Clinton to come into the room. And I'm wearing an IBM t-shirt. You can't see it, but the picture on the left is what that shirt looks like on the right, but it's turquoise. And I came up and I said, "Hi, President Clinton, it looks like I'm first in line with my IBM t-shirt." And he said, and he shakes my hand and he puts his hand on my back and he says, "May you always be first in line." So with that, before I answer more questions, I just want to tell you that I hope that you all will be first in line, just like President Clinton said to me. All right.
So Melissa, there is another question.
Yeah, I would answer the question.
Farooq Khan says that Donna's story was inspiring.
Oh,
I
Donna's
follow
amazing.
her on Instagram. Please send me her details. I think you already mentioned that. She says she's not digitally illiterate, but not savvy enough. So I don't know what she wants. Everybody's not savvy enough. I think there's a lot of learning online. What would you suggest for her?
I wrote a blog on this actually, and maybe what I can do is let me just type it in the chat window. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna type can I put it in the Q&A? Oh no, I don't have access to the Q&A. Maybe because I'm sharing my screen, is that why? Let me stop sharing my screen and I'm going to add it to the chat window. Give me 1 second. I think you're on mute, Jihan.
Akash, for some reason, I also don't have access to the questions part, so.
Okay, cool. I just added it to the chat window. So I wrote a blog on this. It's ibm.biz/digital intelligence. And this is a great place to go to become digitally skilled. I've got a bunch of stuff in there. I'm going to just quickly copy something else I wrote this with, it's a PowerPoint, and I wrote this specifically for teens, but it's not just relevant for teens. It's relevant for anyone who needs digital intelligence. So just ignore the title of this, but it's, there is a PowerPoint that gives you 10 things to do at home. And then I wrote another blog post. So here are 3 places that you can go, and these are all pieces that I wrote. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen again, and then I wanna quickly share one quick thing about a program that I run at IBM for any of you startup founders out there. And I'm gonna do this really quickly because I wanna make sure that for our startup founders, if there's any interest in working together with me, so that if you've found your purpose and passion, if you know what it is, you're a founder, you've got a startup, you're doing some really good tech for good stuff, I would encourage you to apply for, and you're doing something in fintech, health tech, or insurtech. I have a startup program. I work together with Jihan. She's one of our partners, and she's helped us to recruit. We launched on April 16th. We closed the application process on the 15th of June. And You can read more here. I'm not going to go into the details here, but if you go to ibm.biz/HPA-apply, and I'll put that in the chat window too. So let me just copy that. I'll put it in the chat window so you've got it. You can read more about the program there. What I'd love to do now is go back to the questions and figure out what else do we have in terms of questions, guys?
Yes. So Umar Ayub's asking that what the issue he is facing is that whenever he thinks about an idea, for example, transportation, future of transportation, he wants to apply the solution, but he feels that things change really quickly, and then his knowledge sort of keeps increasing daily. But then once he reads up more about it, he realizes that it was wrong. So then it's like a loop. So then how does he get out of this, and how can he do anything like that?
Welcome to being a founder. I call it running after the next shiny thing. And you need to figure out how to prioritize and, you know, settle on what do you want your beta to be, what do you want your version 1 to be, and continue to read, but agree upon this is what version 1 is going to be. And if you keep changing all the time, you're never going to get a version 1. You have to start somewhere. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to include everything. But what is your version 1? You can always add on more stuff later. But what is that version 1? If you don't ever get to the version 1, you're never going to have a version 7, and you're going to keep spinning. So you need to figure out how do you net on one thing, continue to read, continue to learn, but stay committed to that one thing so you at least get something launched. You can iterate on it, you can change, you can modify it. But I think remember that whenever you're building anything, whenever you're innovating in anything, don't forget it's not just about you and your thoughts. You know, talk to your users, talk to your audience, talk to people who, you know, have these problem challenges, you know, market opportunities. I don't know if Jihan, you have any other comments there, but I feel like a lot of founders continue to run after the next shiny thing and they never end up building anything.
Yeah, I think if they take it a step at a time, work on one of their ideas, the one that they most believe in, that, you know, that keeps them up at night, try and take that forward. And if it doesn't work, that's fine too. Experiment and then move on to the next one.
Yeah.
You know, there are no guarantees in life, but if you try hard enough, you try 1 or 2 or 3 ideas, you never know, the third one might work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think we probably have time for one more question, and then I think we're up on time, right?
Akash, are there any questions? Yes, there are, I think. Yeah, there is Ruxana Mazhar who wants to know what's the difference between passion or a need? Need to work on an idea because there's a gap and no one is working, or passion? I mean, what's the difference?
So I think that a passion could be something that is also a need, you know, but I think passion is something that's really coming from deep in your soul that fires you up, wakes you up in the morning. You can't stop thinking about it. You care about it so deeply, it just engulfs your life. And a need is something more like, it's something you've got to do, something that has to be done. But it's not something that fires you up, that makes you want to just like jump up and down and scream. All right, everyone. I have another call that I have to get to. So thank you, Jihan. Thank you, everyone. You can find me on Twitter at Mentor Africa. I will give you my my Twitter handle. There it is. I am not always the best at accepting everyone in Facebook. So if I don't accept you, accept my apologies. Sometimes I get some wonky things that come through. But the best place to interact with me is through Facebook or through Twitter. So if you're
Thank
not
you very much, Melissa. There were lots of questions and many questions from some of the same people, so we were not able to get to all of them. but we will
Do we
share
wanna
your
do a
Twitter
tweet?
ID.
Do we want to do
Sorry?
do we want to do a Facebook, a Facebook chat or a tweet chat or something like that at some point in the future? Is there enough questions
Sure,
that
sure, we could
would
do
make
that.
that
We could do
relevant?
that. Yeah,
Okay.
because I think there were so many questions, there was so much interest. Some people were even getting annoyed that we were not putting all the questions to you, but there's only this much time, and I'm sure they understand. So yeah, maybe we could do a Facebook Q&A and
Yeah, I'd
let's
be
see how
happy to
that
do
goes.
that. Yeah, let me know
Okay,
if you
sure.
want to do it. Even if you want to do a Facebook Q&A this weekend and take the questions, pop on again, and I just go through all the questions. That's fine with
Okay,
me.
we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, that'll be
Okay.
great. Thanks so
Okay,
much.
cool. Bye, everyone. Thank you for
Bye. Have a
joining
good
in.
day. Have a
Take
good
care.
day.
Bye-bye.